Now, I'm sorry, I'm the reason a lot of y'all found out that the gifted and talented program was just special ed on the other end of the bell curve. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think we need to be in the habit of calling a thing a thing. And going through the comments, it seems that I need to address some things. When I'm talking about the gifted and talented program, I'm mostly talking about elementary school up to maybe middle school. I'm not talking about AP classes. I'm not talking about your honors, whatever. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Gifted and talented, elementary, up to maybe eighth grade. It seems that I also need to remind y'all that like different school districts have different resources. You know what I'm saying? And some of y'all went to some school with some money and y'all were able to have an actual really good gifted program. I love that for y'all. And to my babies saying, I wasn't a distraction. I was just sitting there reading my book. I didn't cause any problems. Come here. Your mere presence and acting differently than the rest of the people in your classroom was a distraction of its own. You weren't moving with the natural ebb and flow of classroom participation. Therefore, you're a problem. You're a problem. You must be removed. Now, did I like being a part of the gifted and talented program? Absolutely. Would I go back and do anything different? Probably not. Did I like dissecting those owl pellets? I absolutely did. Did I like building bridges out of toothpicks? For sure I did. Got an A plus on every single one of those board games. Still remember half the cards. Did I make friends in the Gift Talents program that I'm still Facebook friends with today? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was still in special ed though. That the gifted and talented program was just special ed on the other end of the bell curve.
I was in the gifted and talented education program in elementary school, and I just always thought I was smart. Like I always had straight A's, so I just thought, oh well, cool. And there was like a big exam that I had to take to be involved in it, so I spent my whole lower education thinking I'm just smart. And then when I was 17, I found this packet full of all these different stages of development, and they were annotated. So it was like some of them were crossed off, some of them had circles. There are all these notes about like this is like things to look for, this is what to do if this happens. And like I kept looking like papers near it, and it had like letters from developmental professionals. Like that was really interesting. And so I asked my mom what this was. And so she's like, oh, they tried to say that you couldn't go into the next grade because like I couldn't hop on 1 foot or I couldn't do like certain things. And she's like, but you're so smart, so I had you tested for all this stuff. I was like, okay, but I took AP Psych, and I was like, yeah, this looks like the definition for autism. And she's like, no, you're too smart for that. I was like, okay. And so I saw my doctor fairly recently after that. And I told my doctor, I was like, I thought it was interesting. I found this packet with all this stuff. And she looks at me, she goes, yeah, you're autistic. And I go, it's like, what? And she goes, yeah, like it was something that was already known. And I go, um, what do you mean? And she even mentioned, she's like, you're in the GATE program, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. She goes, yeah, you're autistic. And I go, I I thought I was just really smart. She goes, you are, but you're also autistic. And so I left that doctor appointment and I was like, um, mom? And it was this whole thing. And I still fight with my mom about it because she still says that I'm too smart to be autistic, which is not true. But it kind of was like everything made sense after talking to my doctor about that. And she was kind of surprised by the fact that I didn't know. Um, but yeah, I always thought it was interesting because they treat it like you're just smart, which nothing wrong with that. I mean, it was fun, but you know, it was like a big eye opener when I found out that it's more than just being smart, and so much more makes sense now. And I'm still learning more, and I go, wow, I did not know that that is a reason why I do that. Or, huh, you mean that's not normal? You mean other people's brains don't work like that? You know, just a fun little story.
I saw a post where someone asked what happened to all of the gifted kids from the 90s and the early 2000s. And I was like, I wonder what happened to them. Like, that's my tribe because I was a gifted kid, right? I was in honors classes, I took AP courses, I was advanced, at least I thought I was. And then I made the mistake of reading the comments, and someone mentioned that those honors and like gifted classes were really for neurodivergent students or people that were kind of on the cusp. And then I saw another comment where someone posted this Venn diagram that has had me contemplating my life for like the last hour. So I had to share it with you because it shows all of the overlap between the traits and the characteristics of the gifted kids versus kids that had autism and kids that had ADHD. And it's just interesting to see like the intersection points. So things that track for me as far as like being gifted, a tendency towards abstract thinking, early emotional awareness, needing to have some type of intellectual stimulation, mental challenges. Like I was the person that was going to challenge the teacher. I always had something to say. I also got that written on my report card. So maybe that means the same thing for you guys too. But then if we look at like the ADHD overlap, easily bored, very, very true. Thinking in metaphor and symbol. I still do this. Like I literally do work calls where I'm talking in analogies and it's just like, what's going on here? If we look up for the people that are autistic, ability to notice details, preference for logic and fairness, like 1 + 1 has to equal 2, 2 + 2 has to equal 4, and you can't tell me otherwise, or we're gonna be in the room for a really long time. Like all of those thinking and systems, all of these things track. So it's just like, hold on. Do I need to like, maybe I need to run some tests, y'all. Like, do I have ADHD? Am I autistic? Like, I don't know. I am gifted though, I think. Anyway, y'all, I'm very interested to hear your opinions on this. Please drop in the comments what skills that you have in different buckets and if you actually were a gifted kid in the 90s or the early 2000s.
Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I do find conspiracy theories interesting and funny, and hey, sometimes they even end up being true, because sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. That being said, life has gotten real strange, and my personal past is now butting up against all the theories I'm seeing, and it's getting kind of terrifying. So I was in the GATE program in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and looking back, a lot of the tests and stuff we did were weird, but they didn't seem as weird to me at the time because I didn't go initially to a pull-out GATE program. I went to a full-day GATE program, so my entire class was nothing but GATE kids. I remember them telling us basically we were smarter than everybody else. It was basically going to be like a gifted class. But every now and then, like, people did come in and we would do tests. And what's killing me is now I'm having memories that are being unlocked. Sometimes it's not even the memories. A lot of people have been playing clips and parts of the tests, like audio clips, and my whole body responds. Like I have whole body reactions. I don't know why I have whole body reactions, but I do. Like, they are noticeable. My partner looked over at me and was like, what is going on? I was just like, I remember. I didn't know that I remembered, but I remember the creepy voice. Do not be afraid. This is just a test. This will all be over soon. There was a female voice, but then there was also another voice. There was also a male voice. No, they were not the hearing test. I remember the hearing test because it'd be like, oh, let us know when you hear a sound. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. But we also had tests, and yes, they were the people that came with the big, bulky headphones. Sometimes they were red and blue, but the ones that give me anxiety upon looking back were the big gray ones. And they would call for frequencies, like, tell us when you hear a frequency, and then tell us when you hear a frequency that's different than the other frequencies. A lot of stuff like that, and I remember even asking at the time, what does this have to do with being smarter than anyone? And no one could give me any kind of answer. But again, because my entire class was a GATE class, nobody really questioned it too much because we were all doing the same thing. I didn't think to ask more questions until I went to 5th grade and went to a pull-out gate program. And again, if we're told we're supposed to be smarter than everyone, we're supposed to be doing all this, why are we doing puzzles? Why are we doing matching? Why are we doing guessing games? Like, I asked this in 5th grade and they were just, well, they never answered. Yeah, they never answered. And then in 6th grade, it all just stopped. Like, no more tests, no more gate. I just thought I went to a school that didn't do it anymore, but now I'm seeing other people say, like, yeah, it was pretty much only elementary school. I was in gate for 3 years. I went in 3rd grade. It was 3rd grade through 5th grade. I went to 2 different schools, 2 years in a full gate program, 1 year in a pull-out program. I remember distinctly that I had nightmares all the time. And I remember that I got in trouble a lot because I would tell my parents these stories, like these crazy, wild stories, and they would insist that I was lying, that none of this could have happened. I don't remember what the stories were about. I don't remember some of the specific games we played. I remember that I was always told I was lying, though, and I was always getting in trouble, and I could never understand why, because I would just be talking. Like, it's really, really fuzzy. But I remember my parents being confused because it wasn't stuff that I should even be lying about, like about random hypothetical situations or made up things. I don't know. But now I'm wondering, like, was it related? Was it related to gate? Because other people's experience seemed to seem like it's related to gate. What were they doing to us? And how did I end up in the middle of it?
Alexa, what is the CIA's Gateway Report?
From Sanatine.es. In 1983, the CIA published the Gateway Report, a mind-bending document about military research into astral projection, out-of-body experiences, and other dimensions.
Alexa, according to the CIA Gateway Report, what is the absolute?
From PopularMechanics.com. Much of the gateway theory rests on what McDonnell calls the absolute, an energy field that exists in all dimensions, has uniform energy throughout, and is infinite.
Alexa, according to the Gateway Report, what is the significance of a hologram?
A hologram is a three-dimensional optical simulation created by the diffraction of light, as described in the Gateway Report.
Alexa, what consciousness-altering methodologies did the Gateway process employ?
From Gumroad.com. What differentiates the gateway experience from other forms of meditation is its use of the hemisync techniques to induce an altered state of consciousness through audio by taking advantage of the brain's phenomenon known as frequency following response, FRR.
Alexa, what is Focus 12 in the Gateway experience?
From intuitionmedicine.org. Focus 12 is the state of expanded awareness, where you can sense and feel that you are more than your physical body.
Alexa, how is the no-time state described in the Gateway experience?
From albawaba.com. He goes on to explain how the gateway experience can allow a person to transcend time and space if the brain's frequency reaches a certain level outside the normal range of perception, gaining access to dimensions of the universal hologram that are normally out of reach.
Good to know.
I have been so hesitant to make this video, but don't care. When I was younger, when I was a little girl, I was admitted into this thing called the GATE program, G-A-T-E, Gifted and Talented Education. I tested within the upper 90th percentile of my peers, 98th. This mysterious organization contacted my mother and was like, your child should be in the GATE program. This program was government funded, yeah. So all my fellow GATE friends out there, do you guys remember the pink fluoride? Do you remember the headphones with the hearing test where you had to raise your hand? Do you remember the guessing the next card game? Like you had to guess what the symbol was on the next card? What about that weird string game that was on the wooden board with the pegs? The video of the woman talking, and there was this room that was black with a green grid line. They were laser green grid lines. And they were always asking us about ancient Egypt and to like study it. What were these people doing to us? What did they do to us? because before that, I remember being able to astral project. I would go out of body and I would see my mom doing stuff. And I remember waking up and asking my mom, "Are you doing so and so?" And she was like, "How would you know that? You're asleep." I am convinced they were looking for certain children with abilities, so they could suppress it. That weird pink drink, that pink drink they were always shoving down that I covertly spit out. What were they doing to us? You guys, what were they doing to us?
I need to warn you that this next audio clip may trigger some weird feelings and memories if you were ever a part of the gifted and talented education, special education, or speech therapy programs while in school.
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
The first thing you need to know is that was not a hearing test, which is what they told you it was. This clip is directly taken from a hypnosis program called the Gateway Tapes. And there is a very specific reason why I'm sharing this with you. When I first played this clip for people and connected it to the gifted and talented education programs, this was all completely on a hunch, a weird feeling that I had after listening to these tapes in my adult life and having flashbacks to those memories as a child. Since then, thousands of people have confirmed that suspicion for me, and I want to see if you can help me with another one. For whatever reason, in our adult lives, we seem to gravitate towards other people who were in this program as well, completely unknowingly. I want to see just how many of you have friends and significant others who remember this audio as well. I don't know for sure why we were subjected to hypnosis in certain programs in our education as children, but I am very interested in how many of you remember something like this, and more specifically, how many of you have significant others and close friends in adult life who also went through something like this.
So I had every fucking intention today to do a video about dream recall, remembering your dreams, things you could do, steps you could take, all the good things, right? No, can't do it. You know why? Because fucking people are drudging up the brittle corpse of the Gateway Tapes again. Y'all know, if y'all been following me for however long, how long ago was that? 6 months ago? Y'all know how I feel about them motherfucking tapes, okay? The Gateway Project, the Gateway Tapes. Listen, I'll be honest with you about the tapes, okay? I am neutral about them. What pisses me off about them is the people who come on and say, "Oh my God, I astral traveled all night. I went to these tropical paradise." I was getting ready to say something very not nice. And they're already suppressing videos, so. Why are you doing that? Is it for views? Because at least if it's for views, I'll be like, okay, it's for views. Just do your own research. But it's almost like you think that the experience that you're having, everyone else is going to have. They're all going to come on. Everyone's going to live happy ever after. And you're going to get your likes, views, and your engagement. It's not fucking like that, okay? My thing, I'm sorry, I'm catching a cold. It's allergies or something. I don't know. I leave my window up every night because in my head, that helps my astral self get out. Listen, let's not even get into my lore, but it's been too cold and I think it's giving me a little cold. But no. Here's what you need to know prior to listening to the Gateway Tapes, okay? First, the Gateway Tapes are not going to get you to astral travel. That is a myth. The Gateway Tapes are not going to put you into the astral travel. It's a myth, okay? What they're going to do is they are going, if it works as it's supposed to, because some people don't do anything, okay? It's going to put you in between sleep phases, okay? When you're in between sleep phases and you're not naturally flowing through sleep, you're going to be stuck, okay? Once you're stuck, it's sleep paralysis. Once the sleep paralysis passes, you either wake up or you AT, okay? It's literally a gateway, okay? I hate that I just validated that, but
It's true, okay? Now, people who don't know that dive in, they get into a horrible sleep paralysis phase, they weren't ready for it, and it's traumatic, okay? Then they stop doing it, and then they never want an AT. I want every single one of you motherfuckers to astral travel. Every single one of you. It's so important. It's for your growth. It's so important. I want you guys to go through all the good, the bad. I want you to see all the things. I want everyone to do it. And I'm not just trying to play it up. I just believe that if you're spiritually inclined, spiritually in tuned, and you need to do it at least once, okay? But know what you're doing, okay? You want to listen to it, go into it knowing about that. Now, once you get into that, okay, and you are on your way to ATing, I was explaining a little bit of this yesterday. There's fucking levels to that shit, okay? The paralysis that you're in, it's auditory, it's physical, and it's visual. Most of it starts out with the visual. You're going to see shit. I see a spider, one singular spider, humongous, big as a fucking house, okay? Black and white spots. It crawls up the wall. I'm stuck. I can't breathe, okay? Next, auditory hallucinations. You're going to hear either one of two things, whispering or loud booming noises, maybe even loud screaming. Once in a blue moon, I thought I was hearing like people talking, but the part that's going to fuck you up is listen, it was so bad one time, it literally sounded like fucking 18-wheelers were being dropped off of buildings. That's how loud it was in my fucking ear, okay? The last one. This is the one that will fuck you up the worst, okay? Or mess you up the worst. You're going to get physical hallucinations. Me, it feels like something is pulling me. It's a hallucination, but I look at it as it's trying to pull me from one level or the other, okay? But it's physical. You can feel it. Someone's grabbing the back of your pants. It feels like that. Or, and this is the creepy trigger warning, I guess I don't know, trigger warning. It feels like someone is whispering in your ear. You can feel their lips gently on your ear, which isn't as bad as being touched inappropriately. Feeling like you're being touched down there inappropriately, okay? I've been touched down there maybe 3 times, okay? And actually, that'll break my paralysis, because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, bruh, that's just me, though. Might not be like that for you, but that'll break my paralysis. I'm sorry. But people have also stated, when I did my first Gateway tape, they stated that it felt like they were being you-know-whatted. Okay? Grapes. So, imagine you just laying back for the night, right? And going through that. And not having any information about what's going on. Are you kidding? It infuriates me to that level, because people need to be doing their stuff. There was this guy on here, and I followed him for a little bit because I like to hear people talk about Tartaria and the pyramids. Y'all know I want to know all the conspiracies. I love that stuff. It helps me to think critically, right? Things we can't answer, questions we can't, it helps me to think critically. And of course, dreams and stuff. This guy's like, oh my God, you guys have to do it. Download it. It's even on Spotify. I looked, it's on Spotify. All the stages. Every stage is on Spotify. I didn't even have to pay for it. I went in and just pushed play and it started. Like, that's fucking insane. Y'all, please, please, please. And you don't even have to listen to me from what I'm saying, okay? Just because that was my journey doesn't mean it's going to be yours. It could be smooth sailing with you. I don't know. You don't know. But you need to do your research, okay? Please. And once you bitches start ATN, I want to hear about it. But please be careful. Then, on the other end of this gateway process, you have the GATE program, which is Gifted and Talented Educated kids, basically, right? Okay, so there's kids that are highly intelligent, highly intuitive, certain parts of the class are boring because they catch on quick, right? They need something to do, so they're pulling them from class. Like, we have programs like that now, ACT programs, like certain times of the day, these kids will go to museums and they'll do enrichment activities, and they'll take them to parks and, zoos, and do all these things with them, gardening, fun stuff, right? Makes sense. That's what parents thought their kids were doing when they were in the GATE program. But instead, they weren't leaving. They were sitting there. Well, I guess they would go to another building or a different location. They would put headphones on them and play frequencies to them until they had out-of-body experiences, till they were lucid dreaming, astral traveling, or any kind of conscious awareness, okay? There was one part of the program that says they had them focus on colored dots until they dissociated. Oh, nothing. We're just going to take your kid out of class and induce dissociation. Hopefully they come back home in one piece. I wish a motherfucker would with my kids. And then it's like, what happened to these kids? When I made that video that I made a couple months back, people were saying they didn't even remember. They only started remembering because other people were saying things. So their whole elementary school childhood, gone. And if you ask me, they were looking for starseed kids. They were looking for the indigo children, the ones that were speaking telepathically, the ones that had ESP, just sensitive to energy, that had abilities. They had abilities. What do you want them to do? Remote view? Bingo. Bingo. These are the kids that are now adults that have been remote viewing for the government and the CIA. You can't tell me any different, because what did you want them for? You weren't doing anything positive for them. You weren't doing anything positive. And you know how I know? Because they don't even remember it. They don't remember. Were you wiping their memories at the end? Was the ending of that with the frequencies? Because they also had kids matching shapes, okay? And reading upside down. What are you? They wanted to see if the kids would use their abilities so that they could use those kids for their agendas, to do their bullshit in wars and spying and espionage and just weird shit. And those kids lost their entire elementary school memory. I hope these people never know peace. Literally. So to the creators on here who are coming on here and telling other people, you guys need to listen to the Gateway tapes. Oh my God, you're going to have such a visceral out-of-body. Yeah, they are. And do you think that everybody is able to deal with something as intense as that without therapy and Reiki and shadow journaling and meditation for years? Like, most of the people that I talk to on here can barely handle the kind of stuff in their dreams. Do not piss me off, please. Don't tell people what to do on here. And also, don't do stuff that people are telling you to do on here. Please do your own research.
You may have been experimented on as a kid. Here's why. In the 1980s and 90s, the GATE, Gifted and Talented Education, program was created to help students with high academic potential, or so it seemed. But many former students now believe GATE might have had a darker purpose. Selected kids were taken from regular classes to windowless, dim-lit rooms and given strange tasks, solving complex puzzles, listening to odd frequencies, and even attempting impossible feats like guessing hidden numbers, shapes, or colors. These activities seemed unusual, and questions started surfacing. If GATE was meant for advanced students, why do many recall having only average grades? And why were students asked to perform tasks that push the limits of normal abilities? Some now suspect that GATE was a secret government program searching for children with latent psychic abilities, or have either to harness these powers or suppress them as potential future threats. Though no evidence confirms this, the memories are vivid and the suspicion lingers. Was GATE really just a gifted program, or was something deeper at play?
In the late 1990s, a group of fourth graders from California were pulled from class without warning. They were a part of the GATE program, Gifted and Talented Education. We've all heard of it. They had all passed a weird logic test a few weeks earlier. Their parents were told it was a routine assessment, but the kids, they say otherwise. One student, we'll call him Brian, he's now in his 30s, said he remembers being taken to this windowless room in the back of the school with fluorescent lights and metal chairs. A loud, humming sound emanating from the room. There was a woman in a white lab coat. She asked him strange questions like, what color is Monday? And if you close your eyes, can you move the shape on the table? He said this went on for a few minutes, and then he said he blacked out. And when he came to, the bell was ringing. He was back in his regular classroom. No one acknowledged that he had been gone. He said he felt weird about even asking anybody what had happened. So he didn't. Years later, he's scrolling through TikTok, and he finds a video of a woman that explains the exact same thing. And in the comment section of that video, he finds dozens of GATE kids from all over the country describing the exact same thing. Same room, the same humming, the same missing time. Nobody ever got an explanation, and none of them can remember what happened in that room. There are so many stories that people have sent me that was just like this. Some of them were even weirder. What the hell is the GATE program really? Do we even want to know? Damn it, man.
If you were in the Gifted and Talented GT Tag GATE programs or experienced the CIA's Gateway Experience program, did you see phenomenal images when you went to sleep at night, or even now when you close your eyes? I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I want to ask you if they look familiar. Many people who are autistic, ADHD, who have the MTHFR genetic mutation, report seeing these type images as they close their eyes. They're usually black images with very colorful dots or patterns. Some people believe that these are phosphenes, and they could be, but typically visual aura would happen if you were rubbing your eyes or if there was some kind of refractive light coming in. Many people believe that these are not phosphenes for those who are neurodivergent, but rather neural connections that your body is trying to, I guess in a way, reconcile different memories, different thoughts, and allow you to get to a state of rest. A lot of us talk about how we saw this a lot when we were younger, but these are getting fewer and far as we get older. I still see them sometimes, but not every night. What's your experience? Especially if you were in GT Tag GATE.
I have a GATE story from the 90s for you. GATE was the Gifted and Talented program at a lot of schools during the 80s and the 90s, and there seems to be a lot of weird stuff surrounding it. Well, at our school, it was called TAG, Talented and Gifted, but same thing. Well, one day in 4th grade, it was raining outside, so we had indoor recess, and one of my friends said, hey, do you want to learn to play a game that they taught us in TAG? I was like, okay, because I always wanted to be in TAG, but I was obviously, in my mind, I was not smart enough to be in TAG. So she got a notebook and a deck of cards. And she would take a card and she would look at it and she'd put it on her forehead and say, make your mind blank and guess what number's on this card. And she kept track of my correct answers and wrong answers. And when I got pretty good at guessing, she moved to number and color, either black or red. And then finally we added on suits, which was really hard. And sometimes we switched where I was the person putting the card on my head, but she was not nearly as good as I was, so I always had to be the person guessing. And we did it for a couple of days just during indoor recess while it was bad weather outside, and that was it. We moved on, and we never played that again, but I think about that from time to time when I hear these GATE stories. And it does make you wonder why psychic ability would have anything to do with smart kids.
If you're seeing this right now, you may have been in a gifted and talented program as a child in school, and how the TikTok algorithm knows this about you, I do not know. But if you have a hard time remembering what happened to you in that program, I want to show you something that might jog some memories. Does this next voice sound familiar to you?
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
What I just shared with you is not a hearing test, which is likely what they told you it was during those sessions. That clip is taken directly from a hypnosis tape by Robert Monroe called The Gateway
Okay, I don't know about you guys, but my entire FYP is just filled with the GATE program and people saying that they're able to remember the tests that they took to get into the program, but they don't remember actually being in the program, and I do. So I'm with you guys on the tests. I remember those headphones, I remember the briefcase, I remember playing all the games and taking all the tests and whatever. But I also remember that once I was in the program, what happened was every Wednesday a bus would come to school. We would be in our regular class in the morning for like 20 minutes or so. And then I wouldn't have to do like the first worksheet of the day because I got to leave. So we would leave, we would go to a different school on a bus. There would be kids from other schools that would we also get picked up, and we would all go there together. And then it was in this school where everything was like dark, damp. I don't know how else to say that besides damp, but it was like kind of musty, to be honest. And really dark, and like you couldn't, there was no like windows, or the windows were covered. Like it was just so dark all the time. So in the morning, we would go there, they would tell us what we're gonna do for the day, and then we would go to Russian class. So we would go into a different classroom, and our teacher only spoke in Russian, ever. Like she didn't explain things in English to us, it was only ever Russian. And they gave us binders that were like 2-inch binders, like this thick, filled with all of our worksheets and the vocabulary we needed to know, and we got tested all the time on our Russian. Then we would come back to the main classroom and we would do problem solving activities. So it would be all over like a wide range of subjects like math, science, English, whatever, but they were all, problem solving related. We didn't have a lunchroom. We would eat lunch at the desks next to our, there was 2 people at each desk, and each desk was actually like a real desk, like a table. And then we would do things like we would watch movies and we would have to evaluate what we saw. So we would have to say like, one of the questions would be like, why did this guy do this thing? And we would have to say like, because of this emotion, his motivation was this, his reason for doing it, he felt this way, or she thought this, and I can tell from their body language, how did you know he was lying in this scene? And then you would say how you knew he was lying. And then at the end of the day, this is my absolute favorite part. So at the end of the time that we were there, we would spend most of the afternoon learning about inventions and how to invent things. And so we would like learn about inventors, we would learn about all the history and stuff, but my favorite part was we also got to like come up with our own inventions. And obviously like we were like 8, you know, like maybe I was 9, I don't know. But we were young, so it's not like we were sitting there doing like complex physics or whatever, but we would invent things and we would give like the general gist of how the science would work to make that happen. I also remember very distinctly the one time they would give us worksheets with like prompts of like the like societal problems. So one of them, for example, was, and this was the prompt, and I remember it so clearly, something about the FBI that matters. So it said the FBI something blah blah blah. But it was about HOAs and like making people mow their lawns, like what would make it easier for people to mow their lawns and keep their houses attractive, like in certain neighborhoods or whatever. But it was like the FBI is conducting research on blah blah blah. That was the prompt. It drove me nuts. Still to this day it bothers me. But it actually bothered me so much at the time that I went up to my teacher and I was like, why does the FBI care about lawnmowers? She was like, Anna, it doesn't matter. I was like, it does matter though. She's like, no, it doesn't. It does matter though. Because that doesn't make sense. Why did they care? We also learned about like business and commerce and how like running a business is. Also, I can't speak Russian. It was way long ago that I learned all of that. I can still spell my name in Russian, but I can't like speak it. That's pretty much out of my system at this point. I'm sure that's not all of it. I'm sure there's still a ton more that's buried in the depths of my brain, but that's what I remember. So hopefully that this is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that me saying this sparks other people's memories, and then they'll say things in my comments that will further spark my memories, and then we can kind of figure this out together. I will say also that the problem solving part of that helped me a lot later on, like in school and in life, and I am absolutely now a solution-based thinker rather than a problems-based thinker, and that has saved me in so many ways. So that part I'm grateful for. Anyway, if you were also in the program, what do you remember? I know each of the programs was different, so like different decades, different states had different programs. But for ours, Russian was a big part of it. And on the first day, we went there and she spoke in English to say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'll be your Russian teacher, and from here on out, I will only speak in Russian." And she only spoke in Russian for the rest of the time. So if you had any type of question, you had to just figure it out. And a big part of what we learned was about Russian culture, but we didn't talk about it specifically in relation to where we were in the States, just like in general. But I do have a lot of my Russian stuff. Like I have this, which we made a tile wall. I know a lot of other people made tile walls also. So these are the instructions on how we were supposed to make our tile wall. And on the back of it, there's a list of words we might like to use. And they are peace, America, love, freedom, Russia, flag, hope, and happiness. I don't know what we did with these things, but like this is a McDonald's ad in Russian. I'll flip it around so you can kind of see it better. There's just a bunch of different Ronalds. Ronald, 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 and a Pizza Hut menu. All completely in Russian. We also learned sign language, and I think that's pretty big too. But I know some people are saying that in their program, they learned French instead of Russian. But I think it's cool that it's different for everybody, and then there's like some things we all have in common, and then some people had different experiences. It's just cool. I'm back with more of the worksheets. So I went through the comments and I tried to pick out worksheets that were what you guys remembered so I can confirm it for you. First things first, some people wanted to see the astronaut on the front. So this is him. It was about an underwater diving apparatus. One thing I saw somebody say was the voyage of the Mimi. So here's one on episode 8. We had a worksheet for every single episode and I have all of them, but they're pretty much similar. And then a lot of people remember learning about whales, and yes, we in fact did. And here is one of the worksheets on that. Then there were a lot of comments about puzzle pictures. Tell me if this is what you guys were thinking. So like they cut up the picture and then we had to put it back together correctly. Like that. And then we had to do I have so many of these graph sheets, and they tested us against each other, and they would like write down how fast you finished. There's also more like Russian, ASL, problem solving, crossword puzzles. I found my invention rubric and more decoding. I'll post some of those later, but right now I am very hungry. So I'm gonna go eat. If you have any memories that are specific, that you want me to look for something specifically, just let me know. I'm back with more GATE program worksheets. And again, I'm trying to go based off of comments. So if you remember something but you want to see it, let me know what it is in the comments and I'll search through my binder for it. With that being said, a lot of us learned different things. We were in the program in different decades. We were in different states. Therefore, what we learned was different. So a lot of people remember learning ASL. I do have this, but I don't have much else on what we learned. And then people wanted to see more decoding. So this is one of the things that we had to decode. Some of the codes that we worked on were Morse codes. Some of them were based in the English alphabet, but the letters were mixed up. And then some of them were just symbols. A lot of people talked about the crossword puzzles that we did, and boy, did we do a lot of them in ours. This was creative thinking based problem solving. So they gave us a problem. We had to figure out a bunch of new uses for old items that we inherited and reuse them in creative ways. And then we had some papers like this where they would tell us who did what when, and we would have to figure out who they were talking about. Some of these were crime-based, some of them, like this one, was volunteer-based, but it was like who done it. And then for ours, we focused a lot on inventors and inventing. So like here's my rubric. Outstanding. And this part was just one of the prompts for the many inventions. I'm back with more worksheets from the GATE program. I think this is like part 4. Everybody keeps mentioning whales, and I went through my whole binder this time, and they were obsessed with whales. Okay, so here's a whale comparison chart. Be a whale expert, and we had to answer all these different questions about it. We had to learn about products from whales, so piano keys, a scrimshaw, perfume, pet food. Somebody else had mentioned measurements, and I couldn't remember what they were talking about, but look at what I found. We had to measure ourselves, or like translate our measurements into ancient measurements.
And then here's another one of those whodunit. So they give you like who's related or whatever, and then you have to figure out how they're all related. Here's one of the pictures. They like they cut them apart and then we had to put them back together. Don't ask me what that is. I don't know. We learned how to tie different knots. So an overhand knot, clove hitch. And then here is more about the invention stuff. People wanted to see more of this. So they gave us a list of things to invent, and then we had to come up with what that would actually look like. And then here is another like decoding worksheet. So they had us mark true or false. These are all statements about Marie Curie. And then we had to say true or false. And then it translated to a letter. And then we had to, apparently I didn't do it, but and then we were supposed to translate the letters into numbers to decode the message. So then we did words of the week. So we've got this one. I'll give you a second to screenshot before I show the next one. So a lot of them had to do with sound. Transmitter, pitch. One thing I wanted to ask is somebody had mentioned that they remembered being made to lay down on the ground flat on our backs and there was sounds playing and we were told to like float. I remember that. I would, if anyone else also remembers, if you could put details in the comments, maybe to jog my memory more, that would be super helpful. What technology do you think exists that we don't know about yet, but we'll find out about in like 5 years? I'm just thinking about like cars, AI, all this stuff. And I feel like we all know that like by the time that the general public like us find out about a technology or a new product or whatever, it's existed for a long time. And I don't even necessarily mean like the process of it, meaning like, okay, first it's an idea, then it takes years and blah, blah, blah. What I mean is like there are people who have access to things that we can't even fathom. And it just makes sense logically that if they have all this like extra access to stuff, that they would also have early access to technologies, including the government, right? Like there's a bunch of technology that the average Joe doesn't know. And this came from my like previous video that I was talking about sounds and frequencies and how that affects us and what we can use it for. That's what got me to this thought. And just purely for like the fun of wondering, what technologies do you think they might like have currently that we just don't know about? Me personally, I think it's a lot of brain stuff. I don't know what that means really, but it's brain stuff. I have a question for the other kids who are a part of the GATE program in any of the decades, any of the states, any of the programs. Because I've been posting my worksheets from when I was in the program and I've gotten a lot of these comments. So I want to know if you were in the program, have you now, like, do you now have clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, or clairsentience, psychic abilities of any kind? Like, can you see ghosts? Do you have dreams that are premonitions? Do you know things about people that you can't know that end up being accurate? Anything like that? And did you have those abilities as a kid? And what were the peaks? If you had it as a kid and you also have it as an adult, did it go away at any point or did it weaken at any point? I'm asking because I've gotten a lot of comments on my videos talking about my psychic gifts that are saying that they were also in the GATE program and they also have those abilities. So I'm wondering if there's more of a connection than we realize. I just wanted to get a feel for like how many of us there are.